Hello, I'm Erin Harper and I work for University of Illinois Extension. I work in Champaign County as well as a few of the other counties in our area. And I really love growing vegetables. I worked with my grandparents in their vegetable garden growing up, and then I worked on the student farm at the U of I when I was an undergrad. I taught vegetable gardening at the University of Illinois. And now I work for Extension and I get to teach people all over our state how to grow their own vegetables. This is Rielle, she's one of the Kit Kids, and she's here today to help me transplant some herbs and some vegetables. So a transplant is just a plant that has been started in a small pot like this one, and we're going to take it from this pot and put it into a larger one where it can grow for the rest of the season. That's all transplanting means. So today we have, this is a basil plant, and then do you want to grab each of the other ones? This is a kale, and what's this one?
3
Tomato,
tomatoes.
tomato, and this one's actually a sweet pepper. See that? It's a bell pepper. They look just a little bit different. They are related though, so since you thought they were the same, they are related. They're in the same family, so they just look a little bit different.
But these are two.
Those two are tomatoes, yep. So other than our plants, the other things we need for transplanting are soil and a pot, and then we have some water because plants need water. So for our potting soil here, you can see that it looks a little bit different than regular dirt from the ground. It has these little white pieces in it, and those are to help hold on to moisture. It has some sticks in it, and then usually it has something like sand, peat moss, a bunch of other organic substances to make up a potting soil. Before we put our potting soil into our pot, we want to get it wet. So do you want to grab the, I'll move this plant over. Uh-oh, is it too heavy? Can you dump some of the water into here?
It's kind of made out
Oh,
rolling.
That's okay. It'll soak into the ground. All right, that's enough for now. Just set that back. You got it? Okay, and then we're gonna mix this up. So when the potting soil comes out of the bag, it's gonna be really dry. And before we put it into our pot, we wanna add some water to it so that all of these little white pieces that are in here can absorb water. The peat moss can get nice and fluffy. And then when we put it into our pot, the soil won't fall out of the holes once it's wet. If we put it in there dry, it would all fall out of the holes. So let's mix in that water. Think we're good to go? Yep, okay. So today for our first plant, we're gonna plant into this plastic container, but we also have some fiber containers. Our other containers, can you grab that clay one? It's a little heavy. There you go. So we also have clay containers. So these are, even though they're really thick, they're gonna be a little bit more breathable than a plastic container. So they will get a little bit hotter and they'll dry out faster. And then we have one other type of container. Here, I'll just move this one back here. Yep.
It's like plastic.
This one is also made out of plastic and it has drainage holes on the bottom, but this one is made to hang like this. So first we're gonna plant into this one, and we can go ahead and grab some soil and just start filling up that pot.
Let's also make sure there's a little bit of a hole so we can put the tomato plant in.
Yep, exactly. So you're gonna fill it to about halfway, and then we'll pause for a minute. So a few more handfuls.
That was good.
Yep, and just pat it down just a little bit so that we make sure it's nice and firm. You don't want to smush it all the way down. It's just sort of like when you have a sandwich that's a little too big to fit in your mouth and you give it a little bit of a smush to get rid of some of the air pockets. That's what we want to do here to make sure we have a good solid foundation. So see, we're about halfway there up the pot, and then we'll keep going. So we can also, before we fill it the rest of the way, we can look at where the pot, this whole thing is going to go. So you see where the bottom of the transplant is there. So we'll just fill it up enough so that then we can set that one in there.
Here.
Yeah, so see, we need about another inch or two of soil, and then we'll set the transplant in there.
One more probably?
A couple more. Good job. A little bit more. One handful at a time. Good job. Does that look good? I think that'll be at a good height, yeah. All right, so when you go to take the plant out of the pot, squeeze the sides a little bit to loosen it up, and then we're gonna very gently kind of rock the plant out into your hand. We don't wanna pull it because we could damage where that stem connects. Oh, good job.
That's a lot of roots.
That is a lot of roots. So when the plants come out and they have a lot of roots around them like that, that's called root bound. And we do want to break that up a little bit, because if it's not too bad on these, but if you get a plant that's really wrapped up and you put it in there, it'll just keep growing like that, and the roots won't ever spread out into the pot. So when the plant gets bigger, it won't really have anything to hold it up, because its roots won't be like this to hold it. It'll all be balled up and it could just topple over. So it does, yep. So they probably used something similar to this when they started the plants. So we do want to massage this a little bit and kind of loosen it up. Yep, and just really gently kind of squeeze it to break up that square shape that it's in. Here, and I can hold this in place if you want to fill in the soil around it.
And then let's water the dry spot.
Yep, once we get it all filled up with soil, we'll give it the whole thing a good water.
Not too deep.
That's a good idea. It'll help it stay stable while you fill it up the rest of the way. Yeah, good job.
Look this side first, because the plant's supposed to be falling to that side. So it might tumble over that way.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's enough soil, it won't tumble that way.
That's right. So we do want to add enough soil to just cover the top of that transplant soil block. So you want to add enough soil just to give a little bit all the way over the top of what you put in there. And that way it won't dry out. If this piece is sticking above the rest of our soil line, this is going to dry out a lot quicker. And especially for the first couple of weeks after we transplant it, that's really important, because this part hasn't really acclimated to the rest of the pot yet. So you want to make sure just a little bit right over the top. That's perfect. And then make sure you give it, I think you were patting it down as you went, but we want to make sure it's nice and stable in there. And that looks great. And then we'll give it a little bit more water.
To get that dry soil that was just in it.
Yep, you got it. Good job.
And then that'll soak into the roots, and that'll help it grow.
Yep, exactly. And then we want to put our plant label in there.
That way we know what plant.
Because remember, we have 2 tomato plants, and the plants look almost exactly the same. So if we don't put the label in there, we won't know what kind of tomato we're gonna get. And that's it. And then to take care of it, you just want to make sure that it gets a little bit of water every couple of days throughout the summer. And you can test if it needs watered. If you stick your finger into the soil up to like your first knuckle or so, if you can feel moisture, then it's still good. If it's totally dry, then you can add a little bit of water. And just a little bit at a time. You don't want to give it a ton of water in one day and then leave it for a week, a little bit each day, because it takes in water every single day so it can grow. So it just wants a little bit all of the time.
Thanks for tuning in to May's Kids Kit. See you next time.
Boom, nailed it.
Yeah, that one was great. That was great.
A pro.